Far away in the dark space, a small, weak signal blinked on the screens of the Galactic monitoring station. It was an SOS, a call for help. No one had heard such a message from this part of the galaxy before. It came from a planet known to be a death world, a place where life was harsh and dangerous. The signal was faint but clear. Someone was in trouble. The Galactic Alliance, a group of many species working together to keep peace, watched the signal carefully. They had rules. They knew this planet was dangerous, full of strange creatures, and deadly weather. Many had tried to explore it before, but none had returned. The Alliance ships were busy in other wars and conflicts. They didn't want to risk their fleets for a small, unknown SOS. But then, a voice spoke up. It was from the human space fleet, known as the Deathworlder fleet. Humans had a different reputation. They came from Earth, a planet full of dangers, like wild animals, deadly storms, and harsh lands. Humans were strong, tough, and used to surviving where others could not. The Deathworlder fleet had grown famous for exploring and surviving in the worst places. Commander Reyna stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute. She watched the blinking SOS signal. Her eyes were sharp and her face was calm but serious. "This is a call for help, we can't ignore it," she said. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Jex, frowned. "But Commander, that planet is a death world. Our last team sent to explore it never came back. It's too risky." Reyna shook her head. "Exactly why we are the right people for this job. We don't run away from danger. We go where no one else can. This SOS means someone needs us. We will answer." The crew of the Resolute cheered quietly. They were ready. They knew the stories of the death worlds, places with giant predators, poisonous plants, and storms that could tear ships from the sky. But they also knew they were the best prepared. They trained for this. They were Deathworlders. Meanwhile, on the alien planet sending the SOS, the scene was grim. The planet's surface was covered with jagged rocks and thick, dangerous forests. The air was hard to breathe. The sun was dim behind thick clouds of dust and smoke. The alien outpost, once a shining city, now lay in ruins. Survivors moved carefully among broken buildings. They were small, thin creatures with bright eyes and smooth skin. Their technology was strange but advanced. They had sent the SOS because their home was dying. Something terrible had attacked them, something bigger and stronger. Among the survivors was Kale, a young alien scientist. He looked up at the dark sky and hoped the SOS would bring help soon. "Please, someone answer," he whispered. Back in space, the Resolute and its fleet moved quickly toward the signal. The journey was long and tense. The crew prepared for anything: hostile aliens, dangerous environments, or traps. They checked their weapons, their survival gear, and their ships. Reyna gathered her officers in the command room. "Listen up. This mission will be hard. We don't know what waits for us on that planet, but we do know one thing. We are the Deathworlders. We survive, we fight, and we win." Her words gave the crew strength. They studied the planet's data. It was cold, with acid rain and giant predators roaming the forests. Many species had tried to colonize it and failed, but humans had ways to live in such places: special suits, strong weapons, and most importantly, their will to live. As the fleet approached the planet's orbit, sensors picked up something strange. The SOS signal was still weak but steady. But there were signs of recent battles, destroyed ships, and strange energy bursts. Jex reported, "Commander, we're detecting something moving on the surface. Large life forms, but they are not friendly." Reyna's eyes narrowed. "Prepare for landing. We will find those survivors. We will protect them. And we will find out who, or what, is attacking them." The landing was rough. The Resolute and smaller ships descended through thick clouds and violent storms. The planet's atmosphere shook the ships. Trees the size of buildings blocked their way. Strange sounds echoed through the valleys. When they landed, the Deathworlders were ready. They wore their special survival suits and carried powerful weapons. The air was thick and hard to breathe, but their suits filtered it well. The ground was soft and dangerous, with plants that moved and snapped like animals. Reyna led the team into the alien city ruins. It was silent except for the wind and distant roars. The buildings were broken and covered in strange vines. Signs of fire and battle were everywhere. Suddenly, a small group of aliens appeared. They looked tired and scared but hopeful. Kale stepped forward slowly. "You answered our call," he said in broken human language. "Thank you." Reyna nodded. "We are here to help. Tell us what happened." Kale's eyes darkened. "Something came. It destroyed our city. The predators, not animals, but made for war. They hunt everything. We are few. We need your strength." The Deathworlders shared looks. This was worse than they thought. The SOS was not just a call for rescue. It was a warning. Something deadly was on the planet. Something they had to stop. That night, under the strange alien stars, the Deathworlders prepared for battle. Reyna stood by the ruins, looking at the broken world. "We came for survivors," she said quietly. "We will bring order to this chaos. The Deathworlders. We're ready." The Deathworld was wild and cruel, but they were wilder and tougher, and this fight was only the beginning. The sun was hidden behind thick clouds as the Deathworlder fleet moved deeper into the alien planet's surface. The Resolute led the way, followed by smaller ships carrying soldiers and scientists. The forest around them was dark and full of strange noises. Every rustle and crack made the soldiers alert. They knew the planet was dangerous. It was a death world after all, a place where only the strongest could live. Commander Reyna stood on a small hill overlooking the ruined city. Her eyes scanned the horizon. The alien survivors were gathering nearby, but everyone was tense. Something was wrong. The predators Kale had spoken about were not just animals, they were dangerous, almost like weapons. Lieutenant Jex walked beside Reyna, his face serious. "Commander, our scanners show strange readings from the city ruins. Energy, signatures like weapons but not like anything we know." Reyna nodded. "We need to be careful. This planet doesn't want visitors." The team began to explore the ruins. The broken buildings were made from a material that shined faintly under the weak sun. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing softly. Scientists took samples, trying to understand the alien technology. Kale, the young alien scientist, moved with the humans. He looked nervous but hopeful. "Our city was attacked 2 cycles ago," he explained. "The predators came from the forests. They are not natural. Someone made them to kill." Reyna looked at him. Who? Who made them?" Kyle shook his head. "We do not know. We only know they want to destroy us." Suddenly the ground shook. A low growl echoed from the forest. The soldiers raised their weapons. Out of the trees, large creatures appeared, tall, strong, with sharp claws and glowing eyes. They moved fast, hunting like killers. "Attack position," Reyna shouted. The Deathworlders formed a line, firing their energy rifles. The predators charged, but the humans fought back with skill and courage. The battle was fierce, but the Deathworlders had trained for this. They used the terrain, hiding behind rocks and trees, using traps and grenades. One predator fell, then another. But more kept coming. The creatures were relentless, as if they never tired. In the middle of the fight, Kale ran toward the city ruins. "Come, I will show you something important." Reyna nodded to her soldiers. "Hold the line. I'm coming." Inside a collapsed building, Kale led them to a strange device. It was old but still pulsing with energy. It looked like a control panel with lights and buttons, but none of the humans understood the language. "This device controls the predators," Kale said urgently. "If we shut it down, the predators will stop." Jex examined the panel. "It's advanced technology, but it's damaged. We need time to study it." Reyna made a quick decision. "We'll protect this site. Jex, set up a perimeter here. Send a team to find more survivors and any clues about who created these creatures." The soldiers worked fast, building defenses and scanning for threats. The alien survivors helped where they could, though many were too weak. As night fell, the forest became even more dangerous. Strange sounds filled the air, and shadows moved between the trees. The Deathworlders stayed alert, watching the darkness. In the command tent, Reyna and her officers gathered around a holographic map of the planet. They discussed what they had learned. "We are dealing with bioengineered predators," said the science officer, Dr. Myra. "They are designed to kill and hunt. The technology controlling them is alien, more advanced than anything we've seen before," Jex added. "And the creators are still unknown. We must assume they are nearby and watching." Reyna's face was grim. "We came to help survivors, but we might be walking into a trap." Kale spoke up. "Our people tried to fight back. We fought with everything we had, but these predators are too strong. We need your help." Reyna looked at the young alien with respect. "We will do everything we can. But first we must understand this enemy." The next day the team split into groups. One group went to search the forest for the source of the predators. Another stayed to protect the survivors and study the control device. As the search team moved through the dense forest, the dangers became clear. The plants were sharp and poisonous. Strange insects swarmed around. The predators' tracks were everywhere, deep and fresh. Suddenly the search team found a hidden cave entrance. Inside, the walls were covered with symbols and strange machines. It looked like a secret base. "We may have found the enemy's lair," said Jex quietly. They entered carefully, weapons ready. Inside the cave, they discovered more technology, machines to create and control the predators. It was clear that someone had planned this attack long ago, but before they could study more, alarms went off. The cave shook violently. The walls trembled. Something was coming. Outside, Reyna's team fought off another wave of predators. The survivors held their ground, inspired by the humans' bravery. Back in the cave, Jex and his team prepared to defend themselves. The Deathworlders were ready for anything. Suddenly, from the shadows, figures appeared. They were tall, armored aliens, unknown and dangerous. Their eyes were cold. They spoke a harsh language, but their meaning was clear. "You are not welcome." The battle was about to begin. The cave was cold and dark, filled with strange machines that hummed quietly. Lieutenant Jex and his team stood alert, weapons ready. The armored aliens who had appeared from the shadows showed no signs of friendliness. Their sharp eyes scanned the cave, their bodies tense and prepared for battle. Jex spoke softly into his comm. "Commander Reyna, we've made contact with unknown hostile aliens inside the cave. Request backup immediately." The response came quickly. "Backup on the way. Hold your position." Outside, the forest seemed to grow quieter, almost waiting for something to happen. But suddenly a terrible roar echoed through the trees. The predator creatures were coming again, drawn to the conflict like vultures to a kill. Back at the ruins, Commander Reyna felt the tension rise. The alien survivors gathered, watching the forest edge nervously. "We don't know who these new enemies are," she told Kale quietly. "But they are dangerous. We must prepare for a fight." Kale nodded, his bright eyes filled with fear and determination. "They are the creators of the predators. They want to control this world. They will not stop." Reyna turned to her soldiers. "Get ready. We may face a war on two fronts." Inside the cave, the armored aliens advanced slowly. Their weapons were strange but powerful, energy blades that glowed blue, and rifles that fired beams of light. Jex's team fired back with human energy rifles, but the new enemy's armor deflected many shots. One of Jex's soldiers shouted, "They're strong! We need to fall back." Jex shook his head. "No, we hold. Protect the research." The fight was brutal. The armored aliens moved like shadows, fast and precise. Jex's team worked together, using tactics learned from the Deathworlds, ambushes, traps, and quick movements. The cave echoed with gunfire and the sounds of battle. Meanwhile, outside the cave, the Deathworlders faced the predator horde again. This time, the creatures were larger and more aggressive. They attacked in packs, coordinating their strikes. The humans had to retreat slowly, using grenades and flamethrowers to keep the predators at bay. Commander Reyna led a group of soldiers into the forest. "We can't let the predators break through. Hold the line." The battle stretched for Hours. The Deathworlders fought hard, but the Predators' numbers seemed endless. The survivors watched, hoping and praying. Suddenly, an explosion shook the forest. A predator pack had triggered one of the human traps, and it caught several creatures in a fireball. The humans cheered briefly, but the fight was far from over. Back in the cave, Jex and his team were surrounded. The armored aliens pushed forward using their energy blades in close combat. One soldier went down, wounded but alive. Jex called, "Out! Fall back to the control device. We must protect it at all costs." The team retreated to the strange control panel. Dr. Myra and the scientists worked quickly to understand it. "This device controls the predators remotely," she explained. "If we can shut it down, the predators will lose their orders and become less dangerous." Jex nodded. "Do it fast." As the scientists worked, the armored aliens pressed their attack. Jex's team fought desperately to hold them back. The battle was turning into chaos. Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded from the device. The scientists looked up in alarm. "It's a trap!" Dr. Myra shouted. "The device is rigged to explode if tampered with." Jex's eyes widened. "Evacuate now! Everyone fall back!" The team ran from the cave just as a massive explosion shook the ground. Rocks and debris flew everywhere. The cave entrance collapsed behind them, trapping some of the armored aliens inside. Outside, the forest battle had reached a breaking point. The predators were still advancing, but suddenly, without their control device, their attacks became disorganized. They hesitated, confused by the loss of command. Reyna saw the change immediately. "Now, push forward!" The Deathworlders and survivors attacked with renewed energy. They drove the predators back into the forest, forcing them to retreat deeper into the shadows. Kale looked at Reyna with relief. The device was their control. Without it, the predators are weaker. Reyna smiled slightly. "That's why we came here. To fight smart, not just hard." But the fight was not over. The armored aliens outside the cave were still a threat. As the survivors gathered, the strange new enemy moved closer, preparing for another attack. Reyna knew this was just the beginning of a larger war. The Deathworlder fleet had answered the SOS, but the galaxy's dangers were far from over. The air was thick with tension as the Deathworlder fleet and the alien survivors regrouped after the fierce battles. The forest no longer echoed with the Predators' coordinated attacks, but danger still lingered. Commander Reyna stood tall, her eyes scanning the horizon as the survivors gathered around. "We have a chance now," she said firmly. "Without their control device, the Predators are disorganized, but the armored aliens are still out there. We need to strike back, and fast." Kale stepped forward, holding a small device from the cave's ruins. "This might help," he said. "It is a communication tool. Maybe we can use it to find out where the creators are hiding." Reyna nodded. "Good. We need every advantage we can get." The scientists worked quickly to repair the device. It was old, but the technology was advanced. Finally, with a soft beep, the device powered on. Strange symbols appeared on its screen. Kale studied the symbols carefully. "This shows a location, deep underground in the northern forest." Reyna's face hardened. "Then that is where we go next." The plan was clear. The Deathworlders and the alien survivors would journey into the northern forest to find the enemy base. It was risky. The forest was thick and filled with unknown dangers, but it was the only way to end this fight. Before the journey, Reyna gathered her team. "We are going into enemy territory. We don't know what we will find, but we have to be ready. Stay close. Watch each other's backs." The group prepared for the journey. Soldiers checked their weapons, loaded supplies, and tested their survival gear. The alien survivors packed what they could carry. Even Kale looked ready, determined to help his people. As they moved into the forest, the trees grew taller and the air colder. Strange sounds surrounded them, calls of unseen creatures, the rustling of leaves, and distant thunder. The ground beneath their feet was uneven and thick vines blocked their path. Reyna led the way with a small team of soldiers. Lieutenant Jex followed with the rear guard. The group moved carefully, using hand signals to communicate and staying alert for traps or ambushes. After several hours, they reached a hidden valley. There, half buried in the earth, was an enormous entrance carved into the rock. It looked like a natural cave, but the technology around it told another story. Metal walls, glowing lights, and heavy gates. "This must be the enemy base," Kale whispered. Reyna studied the entrance. "We need to find a way in without triggering alarms." The soldiers set up surveillance drones to scout ahead. The drones flew silently through the air, sending back images and readings. They discovered patrols of armored aliens guarding the perimeter, moving in tight groups with high-tech weapons. Jex reported, "They are well armed and prepared. We'll need a plan." Reyna nodded. "We can't storm the gates. We need to use stealth and surprise." That night, the team made camp a safe distance from the base. Around the fire, Reyna discussed the plan with her officers. "We will split into 2 groups," she explained. "One group will create a distraction at the front gate. The other will sneak inside through a side tunnel we found in the drone footage." Kyle looked worried. "If we fail, they will attack the survivors and the forest." Reyna's voice was steady. "That's why we have to succeed." Before dawn, the groups prepared. Reyna led the sneaking team, moving silently toward the side tunnel. The air was cool, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. Inside the tunnel, the group moved cautiously. The walls were smooth and cold, lit by faint blue lights. The tunnel led deep underground into the heart of the enemy base. Meanwhile, the distraction team gathered near the front gate. Soldiers waited for Reyna's signal to start their attack. Suddenly, the forest exploded with noise. Explosions rocked the ground and energy blasts lit the sky. The distraction team attacked fiercely, drawing the armored aliens' attention away from the tunnel entrance. Inside the base, Reyna's team moved quickly. They found hallways lined with strange technology and signs of recent activity. The air was thick with the smell of machines and metal. As they advanced, they discovered a control room filled with monitors and panels. On one screen, a map showed the entire planet, with markers indicating predator nests and attack zones. Kyle studied the map in shock. "They plan to send more predators to other parts of the planet. This is bigger than we thought." Reyna clenched her fists. "Then we stop them here." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base. The enemy had detected their presence. "Move! Move!" Reyna shouted. The team hurried deeper into the control room. Jex disabled some of the security systems, trying to buy them time. The armored aliens arrived quickly, their weapons ready. A fierce battle broke out in the control room. The Deathworlders fought with everything they had: energy rifles, grenades, and hand-to-hand combat. Reyna faced one armored alien soldier in close combat. The enemy was strong, but Reyna's training and determination were stronger. With a swift move, she disarmed the alien and knocked him down. Jex called out, "We've got control of the systems. We can shut down the predator nests remotely." Kale worked on the controls, fingers flying over the strange keyboard. "I'm doing it now." A series of alarms sounded throughout the planet as the predator nests powered down. The wild creatures stopped their attacks, confused and disoriented. Outside, the distraction team heard the changes and pushed back the remaining guards. They rejoined Reyna's group as the battle wound down. With the base under their control, the Deathworlders and the alien survivors took a moment to breathe. The enemy's plan had been stopped, for now. Reyna looked at the exhausted group. "We've won an important battle, but the war isn't over. There are still dangers ahead." Kyle smiled faintly. "Thanks to you, my people have hope again." Reyna nodded. "We fight together. That's how we survive." As the sun rose over the alien forest, the Deathworlders prepared for the next chapter in their fight. The turning point had come, but the galaxy's future was still uncertain. The dawn light barely pierced the thick canopy of the alien forest as Commander Reyna and her team gathered around the captured enemy base. The victory had been hard won, but the cost was heavy. Several soldiers lay wounded, and the survivors looked tired and wary, Reyna's mind was sharp and clear despite the exhaustion. The enemy's plan to control the predators was stopped, but the threat was not over. The forest still held many dangers, and somewhere beyond the trees, more enemies waited. In the command tent, Reyna addressed her officers. The enemy will not give up easily. They will try to retake this base or find another way to continue their attack. We must prepare. Lieutenant Jex stepped forward. Commander, our supplies are running low. We need reinforcements and medical help soon. Reyna nodded. I've already sent a message to the fleet. They are on their way, but it will take time. Kyle, the young alien scientist, spoke quietly. Our people have lost much. Many are injured or missing. We must do more to protect the survivors. Reyna looked at Kale and then to the gathered group. We will protect every life here, but that means some of us will have to make sacrifices. The soldiers understood. This was no longer just a rescue mission. It was a war for survival. Days passed in tense preparation. The Deathworlder fleet sent supplies and fresh troops, but they were spread thin. The enemy regrouped quickly, sending scouts and small attack teams through the forest. One night the camp was attacked. Alarms blared as the enemy forces struck without warning. The battle was fierce and close. The forest lit up with energy blasts and the roar of creatures. Reyna led the defense, rallying her troops. Hold the line, protect the survivors. In the chaos, a group of enemy soldiers tried to flank the camp. Jex and a small squad moved to stop them. The fight was brutal. Jex's squad held firm, but took heavy losses. Back at the command tent, Reyna made a hard choice. We can't let the enemy break through. I'm sending a team to destroy their supply cache. It will slow them down, but it's dangerous. Kale volunteered immediately. I will go. My knowledge of the forest can help. Reyna hesitated but nodded. Take a team. Be careful. The team moved through the dark forest, avoiding patrols and traps. Kale guided them to a hidden valley where the enemy stored weapons and supplies. They set explosives, but as they prepared to leave, enemy soldiers arrived. A fierce firefight broke out. The team fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. Kyle saw one of his people trapped under debris. Without hesitation, he rushed to help, dragging the alien to safety even as bullets flew. The explosives detonated, lighting the valley with fire and smoke. The mission was a success, but the team had lost several soldiers, including some of Kale's closest friends. When they returned, Reyna greeted them solemnly. Your sacrifice saved many lives. We will remember it. The days grew harder. The enemy pressed their attacks, using the Deathworld's dangers as weapons. Poisonous plants, quicksand, and aggressive wildlife all became part of the fight. Reyna's team adapted, using their training and the alien survivors' knowledge to survive and fight back. They set traps, built strong defenses, and moved with caution. One evening, Reyna received a message from the fleet. Reinforcements were arriving soon, but the enemy was mobilizing a large force. We must hold this base until help arrives, she told her team. This is our stand. As the final battle approached, Reyna walked among her soldiers, giving words of encouragement. We are the Deathworlders. We survive where others fall. Together we are strong. Kyle stood beside her, watching the sky darken. I never thought we would see hope again, but now I believe. The night before the battle, the camp was quiet but tense. Soldiers prepared their weapons and said their goodbyes. Some wrote messages to loved ones. Others sat in silence. Reyna sat alone for a moment, thinking of Earth, her home. She knew this. Fight was bigger than any one planet or people. It was a fight for the future. At dawn, the enemy attacked with all their might. The forest became a battlefield. Energy beams lit the sky. The roar of creatures mixed with the shouts of soldiers. The Deathworlders fought fiercely. They used every skill and trick they had learned. The alien survivors joined in, their courage shining. The battle was long and brutal. Casualties were high on both sides. But the Deathworlders held their ground. In the middle of the fight, Reyna saw a group of enemy soldiers break through a weak point. Without hesitation, she charged forward, rallying her troops to stop the breach. The fight was close hand to hand. Reyna's strength and training kept her alive, but she saw friends fall. Jex fought by her side, covering her back. "We won't let them win," he said fiercely. Slowly, the enemy's attack began to falter. The arrival of fresh troops from the fleet turned the tide. Finally, the enemy retreated, leaving the battlefield to the Deathworlders and their allies. The survivors cheered, but the cost was clear. Many had given their lives. Many more were wounded. Reyna looked at the rising sun. "This victory is because of every sacrifice made here. We will honor them by never giving up." Kale nodded. "Our people will rebuild, and we will stand with you, humans, as friends and allies." Reyna smiled tiredly. "Together we will face whatever comes next." The Deathworld was still wild and dangerous, but the Deathworlder fleet had brought hope and strength. The war had changed them all, but humanity's spirit had proven stronger than ever. The enemy's retreat was only temporary. Though pushed back, their will to conquer this Deathworld had not weakened. Commander Reyna stood on the ridge overlooking the battlefield, her eyes sharp and her mind focused. The planet beneath was scarred, with broken trees, cratered earth, and scattered fires. The war had taken its toll, but it was far from over. Kyle joined her, his face tired but determined. "They are gathering forces in the deep caves," he said. "I fear they plan something terrible." Reyna nodded. "Then we must act first." The Deathworlder fleet had regrouped, repairing ships and tending to the wounded. Supplies flowed in from orbit, and the survivors slowly began to rebuild their defenses. But the true battle was still to come, deep underground in the enemy's last stronghold. Reyna gathered her commanders. "We will launch a final strike on their base in the caves. This fight will decide the fate of the planet, and possibly the galaxy." Lieutenant Jex leaned forward. "It will be dangerous. The caves are filled with traps and unknown technology. We need to be prepared for anything." "We will be," Reyna replied firmly. The assault team prepared with care. Soldiers equipped themselves with advanced armor and weapons designed to handle the harshest conditions. Scientists carried devices to disable traps and hack enemy systems. Kyle provided vital knowledge about the cave layout and enemy behavior. They descended into the dark tunnels. The air grew colder and the walls damp. Strange sounds echoed around them. The dripping of water, the hum of machines, and distant growls. The caves seemed alive, a living part of the planet's wild nature. The team moved carefully, every step alert. Suddenly, a trap triggered. Bright lights flashed and a wall shifted, blocking their path. But quick thinking and teamwork helped them disable it and continue. Deeper into the caves, the enemy waited. Armored soldiers and deadly predator creatures guarded the halls. The Deathworlders fought fiercely, moving as one. Their training and determination shone in every move. Reyna led a group through a narrow corridor where they found the enemy command center. The room was filled with glowing screens and strange alien machines. At the center stood a figure, tall, armored, and commanding. This was the enemy leader. "You have come far," the leader said, voice cold and sharp. "But this world will be ours." Reyna stepped forward. "Not while we stand." The battle was fierce. The enemy leader fought with skill and power, but Reyna and her team pressed on. They used every tactic, every weapon, and every ounce of courage. During the fight, Kale and the scientists worked to shut down the alien machines controlling the predators. With a final surge, they succeeded. The creatures lost their aggression, becoming calm and harmless. With their weapons and creatures disabled, the enemy soldiers faltered. The Deathworlders pushed forward, forcing them back. Finally, the enemy leader was defeated. The cave began to tremble as systems shut down. The team rushed out just before the tunnels collapsed behind them. Outside, the sun rose on a battered but free planet. The survivors cheered. The Deathworlder fleet had won. Reyna looked at Kyle and the survivors. "This victory belongs to all of us, humans and aliens together." Kyle smiled. Our future is brighter because of you. The war was over, but the story was just beginning. Humanity had proven its strength, courage, and heart on a deadly world. They were not just survivors. They were champions. The galaxy would remember the Deathworlder fleet and the day they brought order to chaos.